We're good. Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our public meeting of planning for Monday, February 14th, 2022. Is there any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none, accept the agenda. I'm assuming I'm reading these out, or do they have I'm reading them out? You have them? Okay, Councillor Wensink.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the public meeting agenda of Monday, February 14th, 2022.
Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Are they agenda? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to ratify the minutes. Councillor Noble.
Monday, December 13th, 2021.
Thank you, Councillor. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving on to zoning amendment Z16 2021. Welcome, Chantal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So I'm sitting in here tonight for Jacques Abraham. So to start things off here, I just want to remind everyone here that there's no recommendation from the staff at this point in time. It's only to gather some comments and to give out some information. There's no voting from council at this point in time either. This is just to ensure that members of council have some time to review the application and bring forward any concern before council meeting. Also to give time for staff to review comments and concerns that may come in from the public. The bylaw, the actual zoning bylaw amendment document will only be read, passed, and signed at a subsequent council meeting. So the file number is Z16 2021. The owner is Anna and Florin Valine. The location is 20397 La Passe Lane, here in Alexandria. So here's map number 1, showing the location. A little bit more of a closer view here. The official plan designation is agricultural resource lands and rural district. The surrounding official plan designation is agricultural resource lands and rural district for all adjacent and neighboring properties as well. Our zoning designation is general agricultural, rural, and floodplain. The surrounding zoning is general agricultural, rural, for all the adjacent and neighboring properties. The surrounding properties are mostly rural residential. The purpose of the application is to rezone both the severed and the retained portions subject to consent application B145-21, condition number 3 as followed. The severed portion, 77 acres, is to rezone from general agricultural to general agricultural special exception 198 and rural to rural special exception number 16 to prohibit residential development. And the retained portion, the 57 acres, is to be rezoned from general agricultural to general agricultural special exception 199 and to rural special exception number 17 to acknowledge the minimum lot frontage deficiency from the required 200 meters to the proposed 199.9. So very small difference here, but we had to acknowledge it anyway. To also acknowledge the reduction in lot area from the required 74 acres or 30 hectares to the proposed 57 acres or 23 hectares. A resolution was passed by council on November 8th, 2021 for the severed portion to be exempt from having frontage on an open and maintained road allowance. It will only be accessible via the unopened and unmaintained portion of La Ponce Lane. No public roadway extension is being requested. The subject land area is approximately 131 acres. The applicant received conditional approval from the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry on November 21st, 2021. The retained portion will be used by the current owners to construct a single-family dwelling and a home-based business, both permitted in the municipal zoning bylaw. According to the provincial policy statement, lot creation may be permitted in certain circumstances where it can be demonstrated that the lot can accommodate the use, the accessory uses, and appropriate sanitary sewage and water services. The SDNG official plan policy permits agricultural lots to be created with no frontage on an open roadway, as the frontage may be exempted for farmland by way of a resolution of support passed by council. The application was also circulated per the Planning Act by mail, public notice in the paper, and a posting on the subject lands as well. In conclusion, based on the criteria above, the proposed zoning amendment conforms to the relevant policies of the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry's official plan. It is consistent with provincial policy statement and with the intent and purpose of the official plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Chantal. And were there any complaints from the, or comments from the public?
Pardon?
Sorry, were there any complaints or comments from the public on this?
No, I received one inquiry, which was just basically going over my public notice that I had sent out to everyone. And I expressed that it would be a good idea if they had additional concerns or questions to come to the meeting tonight. But they didn't show.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chantal, can you go back and put up the picture of where the house, where the house is going to go? No, other way,
Keep going.
one more. There. So, is that the driveway, like on the green part there? That squiggly line, is that a driveway?
I believe so.
I was just wondering how the property was going to be accessed from the road. And I'm assuming that the unopened road allowance starts where it goes pink, and that where it's green is still a public roadway. I'm assuming, right?
To my knowledge, Deputy Mayor, I think so. I kind of just took over this file at the last
Right,
minute,
okay.
but
No, that's fine.
as
So-
far as I know, yes, it is.
Okay, well, it was, it's just, it's not indicated on any of the.
On the other
photos.
maps, no, it
No,
wasn't.
so that's why I was asking the question.
No, and there's no, it would have helped also if we knew exactly like the house plans or exactly how things were going to be laid out, but at this time, we don't have that information.
Right, okay. I'm assuming it's a public roadway there. It has to be, because they can't put a driveway onto. Yeah. Just beyond? Okay. Right, okay, yep. That's fine, thank you. It turns out he's, Mike's got a pretty good memory, so.
Yes, he does.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, do we have to ask the public? Okay. Okay, so thank you, Chantal. I believe that concludes our meeting. Adjournment, Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move by myself, seconded by Councillor Massey. There being no further business to discuss, the public meeting of planning was adjourned at 6:41.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion is carried, so we will take a break till 7 p.m., 18 minutes, and we'll come back live. Thank you. to our regular meeting of council for Monday, February 14th, 2022. If we could please stand for the national anthem. Thank you. Okay, thank you. I will call the meeting to order. Welcome to all members of council, staff, and anyone watching from here and from home. And if anybody is upset about us meeting on Valentine's Day, please call Karma Williams. She insisted on this happening this evening, so. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, accept the agenda. Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Massey, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry accepts the agenda as amended of the regular council meeting of council on Monday, February the 14th, 2022.
Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we are adding in under staff reports, under item number A5, the GSP.
Perfect. Thank you. Anything further? All those in favor? Motion is carried. And moving on to the minutes, Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Noble, that the minutes for the following meeting be adopted as circulated. Regular meeting of council, closed session, January 24th, 2022. Regular meeting of council, January 24th, 2022.
Thank you, Councillor. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion is carried, none opposed. Okay, moving on to, there are no delegations this evening. Staff reports, A, Community Services Department, tree sponsorship for the Township of North Glengarry. Councillor Noble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley, that council receives staff report CS 2022-02. The council approves the disbursement of $500 from the Economic Development Sponsorship GL 1-4-1950-2034 towards the purchase of trees for the South Nation Conservation Authority's Community Free Tree Day in the Township of North Glengarry. And that council approves the disbursement of $5,000 from the Community Development Special Grants Disbursement GL 1-4-1900-4107 for the purchase of trees for the North Glengarry Large Acreage Tree Distribution Project.
Thank you, Councillor. Welcome in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you know that the Community Free Tree Day is something that's been occurring in North Glengarry for quite a few years now, and we partner with the Raisin River Conservation Authority on this. During this year's discussions on the clear-cutting bylaw, council committed to the proponents that were there at the time to add another amount of funding to the budget to supplement the existing tree budget that we had. And the amount that was proposed was $5,000. We worked with the different components with South Nation Conservation Authority, pardon me, on this project to bring forward a second day that would address properties with larger acres. So we're looking at having one dedicated day during which we would distribute the $500 of funding that comes through South Nation, plus the additional $500 of funding that comes through the township, specifically for our residents across the township. And the second program would be another dedicated day for properties of larger acreage. And we propose a minimum of 4 acres for those properties to be able to access the different trees that will be offered through SNC at that time. So that's our proposal, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of council? Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm assuming that there will be a limit on the number of trees people can take. You know, if they've got 40 acres, you can't give one person all of the trees.
No, absolutely. And that's going to be monitored with SNC. They're going to see what the intake looks like. And at the end, if ever we are not oversubscribed or fully subscribed, they'll put a call back. So they will definitely be limited the amount of trees going out.
But you
at the beginning.
you don't know how many at this point?
Based on the acreage and on what the individual will have to will propose as a plan. So they're going to be doing an online intake, but contacting the individuals also to see what their plans are for the trees.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Manley, then Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, and is it up to the property owner then that they'll be planting the trees? It's not a planting by South Nation, or how does that work?
No, it is not a planting by South Nation. This is actually the owner that will be responsible for coming to the location, the pickup location, picking up the trees and planting the trees themselves, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was reading the package this weekend, and I'm kind of disappointed that we took that route without consulting the council maybe first. There was a local group that were advocating for tree replanting alongside the green roads, and I do know South Nation, the presentation that they wanted to do like a wildlife corridor and stuff like that. Is it possible that when we do get to that $5,000, can we a couple of us on the committee or the committee we made ourselves have inputs on this? Can we work together? Can we contact South Nation? Because there was concern, like some of the green roads were cut right up to the road and there was no more trees alongside those roads. So that's why we had pushed, and me and Jamie had pushed to get that $5,000 so we can I'm just afraid that being we have no control on where those trees goes, I'm afraid that those concerns will not be met. So I would like to have inputs or in contact with the South Nation so we could work a little bit together. Like, I understand the program, it's just that some places I needed more trees than others.
So we'd be happy to organize a call with SNC and we can discuss all those points, definitely.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick point to follow on Councillor Massey's. Perhaps we can just put in a word with SNC to mention this group. This group could put in a proposal as far as, where they want to plant, what they want to do with them. Instead of them having the large acreage, they can coordinate through SNC or with SNC to get it done. Might be a simpler way.
Yeah, because I think the portal allows you to go on and just give them your plan, and then they can call and be in contact. And
Well, and this is it. But if we mention to SNC that we'd like this group to have this opportunity,
Yep.
Rather than saying I have 50 acres, they're saying we'd like to plant on green roads on, whatever spaces. But if we give SNC a heads up that we'd like them to I don't know if we should be necessarily saying that give them priority, but at least that they're interested in doing it and they have our blessing to do it.
Absolutely, and maybe even allocating the funds specifically for that and another portion of the funds for the distribution of trees.
Okay, Councillor Wensing.
Just wondering, Anne, how we're getting the word out.
So we usually have an ad in the newspaper. We also use our social media. We have a great following on Facebook as well as Instagram and Twitter.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Manley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just thought of maybe the Glengarry neighbors, they have quite an extensive mailing list already or whatever, that maybe we can tap into that too, and or whatever. I'm sure they wouldn't
Be
mind.
happy to do that.
Or send it to them and they can pass it on to their
Thank you.
group too.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you. Ontario Trillium Foundation Grant HVAC System for the Maxwell District Sports Complex. Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Move myself, seconded by Councillor Madden, that the council receive staff report CS 2022-03, and that council approves the sole sourcing of the engineering designs to Leonardo Engineering, Inc., I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, in the amount of $34,000 plus HST, financed through the Ontario Trillium Community Building Fund Capital Stream Grant.
Thank you, Councillor. Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a bit of good news. As council will recall, we came to council asking for permission to apply to this fund for the HVAC system that will go in the arena portion of the Maxwell District Sports Complex. We had the happy news of finding out that we were awarded $490,600, which is a grant that will cover the complete cost of the engineering designs and the installation of the HVAC unit on the arena portion of that facility. And we are asking council to approve the awarding of the engineering designs as a sole source to Leonardo. I don't think I did a better job on that one either. Engineering, Inc. Due to the fact that we're looking at a very short period of construction time available to us. As you know, the ice is going to be in most likely until mid or end of April at the Maxwell and District Sports Complex. So we're looking at starting construction from May, and then the ice will go back into the facility for September. So we have only a few months to be able to do the installation of the HVAC. So awarding the engineering designs to this firm will help us move forward with this project quickly. This is the same firm that actually provided the initial sizing for the components, as well as the Class D estimates that were given to Trillium alongside the application. So they're very familiar with the facility, and having that information in their data bank will allow them to proceed quickly towards the design. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Councillor Madden, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question, Ann. Just occurred to me, the multi-sport aspect of it for the summer and the off-season, will it still be usable, or do we just presumably have to coordinate with construction dates and when they're actually working in that area?
Absolutely. I'm not going to say that there will not be any disruptions, but what we are committed to doing is letting any of the users know ahead of time when we have to set blocks of time aside for the construction crew to come in and set up the ducting in the arena portion. Most of the portion, if you look at the building, is going to be done on the west side. The installation of the units will be on the west side, the ducting, the entrances there. Where we will see some impact on the surface itself will be when we install the ducting. So, but we will let the community know when that is occurring.
Okay, thank you. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried, none opposed. Okay, moving on to recreation, reservation and facility booking software. Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wensink, that the council receives staff report CS 2022-05, and the council approves the disbursement of maximum of $22,500 from Modernization and Efficiency Reserve Fund for the implementation and purchase of equipment for the recreation reservation and facility booking software from Book King Pacific Tier Solutions.
Thank you, Councillor. Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I think we've all seen, there's been a huge migration to online platforms during COVID, and that's the same thing that's occurred in our recreation facilities. The CAO asked us in December to put together a request for information and issue it to software companies that provided software specifically for recreation reservations and program bookings. And we did so. We wanted this information to be able to see what was out there, how we could offer a better customer experience to our residents, and also what would be easy for our staff to implement on our end. And it would also allow us to meet one of our goals of our corporate strategy, which is increasing our customer service. So we went through the process of contacting different firms, and we received 5 responses to our request for information. And they are all listed on the second page of the report. As you can see, the points totaled the points total were based on 100 points, and the company that scored the highest was Booking, and they scored 83 on the total criteria that we put out, and it was quite extensive. We figured that staff spent over 45 hours individually going through all of these softwares and putting together a presentation afterwards. We met with the CAO, we went through the logic, the whole process, and the different components that we thought were extremely important for us. We wanted to be able to download some information when we got it to make the accounting process easier. We wanted an online portal for our users to be able to book programming directly. We wanted them to be able to see a calendar to see if a facility was open when they wanted to use it. We wanted also to be able to put conditions on those reservations. What we didn't want to have happen is somebody book a facility, let's say at 2 o'clock in the morning for an 8 o'clock start the next morning without having the staff in place. So what we found was that Booking was going to be the most versatile and easy for us to use. So we're looking at council toward the funds through the Modernization and Efficiency Reserve Fund for us to be able to do this implementation. We will still be retaining our software that we are using today until we are fully satisfied that Booking is up and running and that we've beta tested it at our end. So the good news is we've already paid for Sportal for the full year, and we will only be partially paying for Booking, but that will allow us for the transition. Another nice thing with Booking is that it had a pass management software component to it, and we will be able to give individuals that have family passes or yearly passes for the tennis courts at the Dome a physical pass that they're going to be able to scan. And for us, it's going to give us a much better understanding of who uses what in our facility. And we're hoping to be able to expand that program after we've done it successfully at the Dome into the Maxwell District Sports Complex, because we know that it offers the multi-sports pad in the summer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Good news.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, I just
Yes.
want to also thank staff that worked on this. We had Samantha and we had Melissa. They worked really hard on this project and they took ownership. So we greatly appreciate their assistance.
Great. Councillor Wensing.
Thank you.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you,
I'm
Mr.
getting the
Mayor.
Baddens and the Manleys mixed up tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quick question, Ann. Do you know if you're able to cancel a booking online?
Yes, so we are owners of the restrictions that we can put on how users can use these. There are certain things that I think it's logical to have a cancellation. Let's say you've overbooked, you booked for 3 individuals in programming, yoga, let's say, and you only wanted to book for 2, then you can go back in and cancel it. If it's for a reservation, especially a large reservation, we would want to have conditions that, okay, this cancellation will be processed, follow review by staff, because there may be refunds that have to be processed, there may be staff that has to be unbooked for that specific activity. So definitely, there are all kinds of conditions that can be added to that.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 4, repeal of CIP application 152 Main Street South, Alexandria, Ontario. Councillor Wensing.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Karma Williams, that the Council for the Township of North Glengarry receive staff report CS-2022-06, that Council Resolution number 3, adopted on April 12, 2021, approving community improvement plan project at 152 Main Street South in Alexandria as submitted by property owner Heinz Kasworm, and that council authorizes the transfer of the total grant amount of $2,509.35 allocated to this project to the 2022 CIP budget for traceability through a reallocation to the working reserves at the end of the year.
Thank you, Counselor. I just can't believe you didn't know how to say resub it does.
I tried.
Ann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a little bit of housekeeping. This is a CIP, unfortunately, that did not move forward. We've been in contact with the property owner on this subject, and we have followed with written emails indicating that we are going through the process of rescinding the CIP. We are past the 6-month deadline in which such an item, which is signage, basically an awning, were supposed to be installed. So as mentioned, we have let the individual know that we were coming to council to rescind this grant. And for traceability purposes, we do it by resolution of council. That way our auditors are very happy that we've completed the whole process. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to the Glengarry Sports Palace. I have a motion moved by Councillor Massey, seconded by Councillor Manley. The council receives staff report number 2022-07. The council approves the award of the contract for the Glengarry Sports Palace refurbishment to Freecon Construction, the amount of $2,993,000 plus HST, that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute the documentation for this project. So council met this evening at the Glengarry Sports Palace prior to the meeting to go over this. So I'm not sure who's taking it away. Ann, go ahead.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. We came to council originally on January 10th with the complete project, which was evaluated at close to $3.6 million. At that time, council asked us to go revisit the project, and we're bringing forward a proposal where we've eliminated certain items that are not core to the project, and we have retained the majority of the large projects, including the arena, surface, the bleachers, the first floor bathrooms, the players' referee rooms, the fire prevention components. And that would establish the items that would be refurbished as part of that $2.993 thousand, or actually $2.9 million. So this is the proposal that we have in front of council tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so the original budget for this project, I believe, was 2.1 million back in September of 2019.
Correct.
We know that there's been, cost issues with supply due to COVID and all of that stuff, and as a result, we have a project that is over budget. But I really do believe that we need to stay in that budget that we committed back in 2019. And so I'd recommend, if council's willing to consider, that we do this project in phases, and we break it down in phases so that we can apply for funding for the various phases to make sure that we aren't putting the added cost of this project onto the taxpayer. And so I'd like to see us remove one of the major components for now, and then do it in a phased manner, so we can keep it at the $2.1 million. That's my recommendation.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would have to agree with Deputy Mayor on this. I think that I don't think we can move ahead with a project that is that far, almost $1 million over budget. Unfortunately, we only got government funding based on the $2.1 million, so that $1 million override is going to be specifically on the township, and I don't think at this point we can do that. I think we need to, like you said, Deputy Mayor, we need to go out and look for additional funding and phase this project in. I would like to see, though, that we go ahead and we do everything within the arena itself and the slab area and the stands, all that gets done now as one project. And then maybe we could look at the dressing rooms, which is a $873,000 cost. We look at the players' rooms and the referee rooms at a later date when we can secure funding for those.
Yep.
That's my feeling on this.
Just a couple questions, Ann. Have you spoken to the contractor, and are we going to be able to make this change? And second question is, are we going to be able to complete the work on time to open for the fall hockey season?
So actually, one of our concerns was that, being able to open on time, and the contractor told us that, yes, his goal would be to open us on time for the fall season. And we did break out different components of the project, specifically to be able to have a good idea of what they cost. And he told us that he would honor the project, even with the removal of components such as the players and referee change rooms.
Okay, thank you. And what is that amount minus that?
It would work out to $2,120,000.
Okay, so if I could ask a member of council to propose that amendment. Councilor Madden, you are proposing an amendment to the original resolution to ask to change the $2,993,000 plus HST to 200 and, oh, I think I have dyslexia, 221?
$2,120,000.
Okay, I got it right. Okay, so we will vote on the amendment first. That's correct, I believe. We're voting on, no, we have to vote on the amendment first, no matter what.
Yeah, so the first thing you'll want to do, Mr. Mayor, is just vote that, people are okay with amending the motion, and then read the re-motion afterwards and vote on
Right,
the
so we'll
the
vote
new
on the
motion.
amendment and then reread the motion and pass that motion. So all those in favor of the amendment? Everyone is in favor, so I will read it again. That council receives staff report number 2022-07, that council approves the award of the contract for the Glengarry Sports Palace refurbishment to Freecon Construction in the amount of $2,993,000 plus HST. Oh, sorry, I read the same one. $2,120,000 plus HST, that the mayor and CAO are hereby authorized to execute the documentation for this project. Any further questions or comments? Councilor Madden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if we need to drill down into this now, just we're going to be about $200,000 over when we consider project management engineering costs. We end up at 2.32, yeah?
So if I may,
ahead.
Mr. Mayor. Certainly, Councilor Madden, it looks like that, but the original amount of money that was funded through the government included the $100,000 for the engineering. And then council approved in another subsequent report an additional $100,000 for the project management. So we have plus some money in the reserve, enough money to fund it. So the difference between the two is only about $60,000, which I've spoken to the treasurer because this was a bit of news for her this evening. And her and I and Ms. Leduc will meet and we'll come back to council with how we'll fund the difference. Yeah. Yeah, and that would, I think certainly we've come a long way in the last 2 months with this, and I think, we can look at finding some $60,000 in the budget.
Okay, well, I'm sure the treasurer was happy here to find $60,000 as opposed to $860,000,
Yeah,
so.
It's not,
Yeah.
about 900,000 that she had to find, so.
So I will call the vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried, none opposed. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to staff and members of council for working hard on trying to get this down. It's been, we've taken a little bit of heat for this, and it's good that we're going to be able to get it done, the major portion of the arena done on budget and hopefully be open for sports again in the end of August. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to the Treasury Department Bylaw 07/2022, Tile Drainage Loan and Rating Bylaw. Deputy Mayor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry approve the application for a tile drainage loan, roll number 0111-016-0194-10000000, in the amount of $44,200. And that Council of North Glengarry adopts bylaw 07/2022, being a rating bylaw to impose special annual drainage rates upon land in respect of which money is borrowed under the Tile Drainage Act, and that bylaw 07/2022 be read a first, second, and third time and enacted in open council on February the 14th, 2022.
Thank you. Kim, welcome.
Through the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, OMAFRA, landowners in Ontario municipalities are eligible to receive a loan for tile drainage installation. They're eligible for up to 75% of the total value, up to a $50,000 maximum, with a rate of 6% paid back over a 10-year period. In December, Council approved applying for this loan, and the inspection and completion certificate are now complete. And so we are requesting approval of bylaws 07/2022 to impose the special rates in respect to the money borrowed under the Tile Drainage Act.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried, none opposed. Moving on to 2021 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses. Councillor Noble.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Manley, that Council of the Township of North Glengarry receives report TR 2022-05, 2021 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses for information purposes.
Thank you.
The Municipal Act 2001, Section 284 requires that the treasurer of a municipality shall in each year on or before March 31st provide to council an itemized statement of remuneration and expenses paid in the previous year to each member of council in respect of his or her services as a member of council or any other body, including a local board. You will note attached is that statement of remuneration and expenses. I do want to bring to your attention, there is a typo in the very first one of the local board to Mr. David Filion. It currently says $840, and it was actually $540. So this has been corrected for attachment to the report for council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kim, when I look at my my expenses, I kind of wonder why am I paying, or am I getting $782 in mileage and expenses when I never claim mileage or expenses?
Your
Cell phone.
Cell phone.
Okay,
It's
so
your cell phone.
like it would probably be clearer if it would be cell phones or whatever.
Well, it's
no?
part of your expenses.
Yeah, I know, just that it makes me look bad. I'd rather like
You,
just.
you do that on your own, sir.
It's just, okay.
Councillor
I
Massey.
understand, it's just that it's not as detailed as I always wonder every year, I'm there, what the hell's that?
It's cell phone.
Thank you.
The majority is cell phone if there's been no traveling.
Deputy Mayor Williams.
So are Mayor McDonald and Councillor Manley so high because they talk a lot?
Yes.
Thank you.
Surprising.
I don't know what my expenses are because I pay for my own phone, but it's okay. Okay, any further questions or comments? Councillor Winston. Your $300 is the amount that's given to every member of council at the beginning of the year?
Yes.
For expenses, you received a $300 every year? Yeah. For going to events or any of those kinds of things? Okay. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, moving on to over budget approval required. Counselor Manley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move it myself, seconded by Councillor Madden. The Council of the Township of North Glengarry approves the purchase of 2 UV replacement units for Glen Robertson at a maximum cost of $8,996 plus HST from Comfort Water Treatment.
Go ahead, Kim.
The 2022 budget provided for $7,500 to be spent for these 2 replacement units. This was an estimate. We bought 2 units a couple of years ago, and they were $3,100 a piece, so we thought we were safe at $7,500 for both. But basically, they're coming in at $44.98 a piece plus HST. Although the municipality has refunded a portion of the HST, the cost increase is approximately 22% higher than what was budgeted for. As per the procurement policy 9.2, any items that are over budget by more than 20% need to go to council for approval. Furthermore, section 21 requires council approval for any item being sole sourced, and this one is being sole sourced to match our current UV units. So it provides some consistency with the product. So basically, it's a formality that we need to take care of. The overage for water and sewer budgets, they are self-sustaining. So if there is a deficit at year end, the money is taken from the specific reserve. If there's a surplus, the money goes back to the reserve. So the amount is not substantial. I think it'll be fine. But at year end, any adjustments that need to be made will be made.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to items under the consent agenda. We will be taking the AMO joint and several liability out. And lucky Michael Madden got to get this one, so go ahead.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Wensink. Whereas municipal governments provide essential services to the residents and businesses in their community, and whereas the ability to provide those services is negatively impacted by exponentially rising insurance costs, and whereas one driver of rising insurance costs is the legal principle of joint and several liability, which assigns disproportionate liability to municipalities for an incident relative to their responsibility for it. And whereas the Government of Ontario has the authority and responsibility for the legal framework of joint and several liability, and whereas the Premier of Ontario committed to review the issue in 2018 with a view to helping municipal governments manage their risks and costs, and whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, on behalf of municipal governments, has provided recommendations in this source document to align municipal liability with the proportionate responsibility for incidents and capping awards. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry does hereby support AMO's recommendations, and further be it resolved that the Township of North Glengarry does hereby call on the Attorney General of Ontario to work with municipal governments to put forward a plan of action to address joint and several liability before the end of the government's current term, so that municipalities can continue to offer high-quality services to their communities, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Attorney General of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Amanda Simard, the President of AMO, and local SDNG municipalities.
Okay, thank you. This would be awesome if something could come of it. Municipalities have been going after this for years. In case anyone's not 100% sure what it is, if there's an accident and the person is responsible for 99% of the accident and the municipality is responsible for 1% of the accident, he doesn't have any money, we pay the whole amount. So it's not fair, and it's causing undue stress on our budgets, and especially for our insurance companies. So it'd be great if this finally gets some traction. So any other further questions or comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The other thing that's very important for this also is that, lawyers know this, they know about this legislation, and we are given and served many lawsuits, and we have to speak up and defend ourselves, right? And that's not without cost. So, I'm obviously concerned about this as well, because we have to send it to a claim
a claim person, as well as alert our lawyers every time we get something. And sometimes they're very frivolous, but we can't treat them as such. So I think it's definitely time for the government to take action on this. I know in my entire career, this has been on the table, and it needs to finally, come to an end, because it's not fair to the townships, the cities, the counties, because we're all funded through the residents, right? So it needs to be changed.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried, none opposed. And confirming bylaw, Councillor Wensink.
Moved by myself, seconded by Jacques Massy, that the Council of the Township of North Glengarry receive bylaw 8/2022, and that council adopt bylaw 8-2022, being the bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, and that bylaw 8/2022 be read a first, second, third time, and enacted in open council this 14th day of February 2022.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. I'll open up the floor to question period. Ken, nothing? Okay. Notice of motion, our next regular public meeting of council is Monday, February 28th at 7 p.m. Anything further? Motion to adjourn, Councillor Massey.
Mr. Mayor, moving myself, seconded by Councillor Noble. There being no further business to discuss, the meeting was adjourned at 7:40 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thanks to all members of council and staff and members of the public who joined us tonight. Have a great week. It looks like things are opening up again on Thursday and more on March 1st. So sure we'll be looking forward to that. So thank you.